prevent this to supersize you. Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here. Welcome to day 162 of this year's annual challenge, the Supersize You annual challenge. We're doing one thing every day to become a better version of ourselves. And each month we're focusing on an area of the life framework that I share and have shared since 2020. Needed to really find something to keep me moving and getting up and going in 2020 during the pandemic, just like everybody else. And I decided that every other month I was going to do a 30-plus day challenge to keep me moving and keep other people moving as well. And I found that I was always talking about certain tools, certain things that really helped me throughout my lifetime. And one of those was this life framework. I learned a 7-part life framework from, this is way back in the day, Jim Rohn and Tony Robbins. And I used that until 2021 when I started getting some coaching, because we were our second year into the pandemic. And I'm like, all right, I'm doing great on my own, but what are other people doing? What else is possible? And so I got a year and a half of coaching in the areas of core competency and core skills that make all of us better human beings. I'm like, okay, this was so awesome. I'm adding it to my life framework and what I do every single year as I plan and structure and create the life that I want. And so I added confidence and communication to my other 7 categories. Well, this month we're focusing on physical health and well-being, which is interesting. As soon as we started this month, I had cold from my granddaughters and I guess a chest cold. I don't know. Anyway, it's yucky. But that is a topic for another day because it's not what we're talking about today. What we're talking about today is something near and dear to my heart, literally, because I have had a personal experience with this, and not in a good way, right? In 2010, I had a sudden cardiac arrest and checked out for a while. But lucky for me, it happened in the right place at the right time where there was somebody that could help me till the emergency people and cardiac devices and things could get there and jumpstart my heart again. And it turns out after the fact, after I woke up from the coma and the freezing and everything, that I had broken heart syndrome, or a sudden cardiac arrest, meaning an electrical failure in my heart. Now, I went on a journey after this event to find out WTF, what the heck happened? How did this happen to me? Why was I so unaware? And what caused this so that I could make sure it never happened to me again, since I was lucky enough to still be here. And I learned that the number one, heart-related incidents are the number one cause of death, at least here in the United States. And the number one symptom of a heart challenge in women is death. And I'm a prime example of that. I didn't know I was a walking time bomb with respect to my heart. And I didn't have high numbers, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, high anything. I did live in a bit of a pressure cooker. And so I had a whole lot of stress. But, stress isn't even the number one cause of a heart incident, necessarily sudden cardiac arrest. Even young people get sudden cardiac arrests and drop dead unless they're in the right place at the right time. So the cause of it is slightly unknown, which didn't make me feel any better, right? And the more research I did, the more I realized statistically how miraculous it is that I'm still here to talk about it today. So our topic today is our heart health, our cardiovascular health, so that we can prevent it. And most of heart challenges and heart attacks and things that happen with respect to our heart are really preventable. They're preventable through diet, exercise, reducing and handling stress in better ways, which is a biggie for me. Now it's a part of my everyday life. I automatically have tips and strategies and tools that I use to reduce my level of stress. Now, I would admit I've always been a very high-strung person, so it makes a lot of sense. But when we're unaware of something, we can't do anything about it. But once we know better, we can do better. So today, in addition to, let's talk about the heart stuff first, and then we're going to cover the P in our SOAP framework. We're going to wrap up our SOAP framework. So I don't want to forget that. But as long as we're on the heart stuff, let's talk about that. Challenge today. Take your blood pressure. Somehow, somewhere, walk down to Walmart or go walk into your nearest Walmart, back to the pharmacy. And I haven't been there for a while, but I suspect they still have the blood pressure seat where you can sit down and you can check your blood pressure. I have a blood pressure monitor at home, and I used to check it every day because I went through a spell where I decided I was going to get off all of my medications and I wasn't going to take my beta blocker anymore. And so I stopped taking it for a year. And what happened is, and what is a side effect of those drugs is it often causes blood pressure challenges. And my blood pressure went through the roof. My doctors are like, okay, well, now you're going to go on 2 prescriptions instead of 1. And I said, maybe not. Can I please have 6 months to see if I can get it under control on my own? And so I went on another health journey to figure out and learn all I could about my blood pressure and about my body and what I needed to do in order to keep my blood pressure down. And I was successful. I did a 6-month challenge on myself, a blood pressure challenge. I think I just did a 90-day one that I shared, but I did one on myself. And in like 2 months, 3 months, my blood pressure was down and it stayed down. So I never had to go on any blood pressure regulating medicine. And part of it was because I was afraid of it, because following my sudden cardiac arrest, they gave me a bunch of prescriptions. And one of them in cardiac rehab would cause my blood pressure to tank. And it was so low that I would almost pass out. And so then they'd send me back up to the hospital, and I'd have to sit there for a couple of hours till my blood pressure went back up. And I went through that about 4 or 5 times. And then I'm like, okay, maybe lisinopril isn't the thing I should be taking. So we should look at this. So we did, and we took me off that blood pressure reducer medicine because it wasn't working for me. So just like anything else, question for you today. Do you know your heart health numbers? Do you know your cholesterol? Do you know your resting heart rate? Do you know your blood pressure? Is it like finances? Some of us are very good at ignoring and not even bothering to look at certain things and numbers because we don't know what they are. And if we feign ignorance, then we don't have to do anything about them. Anybody can relate to this besides me a little bit? Well, today, that's why I'm challenging you to go and figure out what your blood pressure is. And if you're brave, share it in the comments below. If not, you can share one thing that you do to make your heart healthier, to make sure that you don't get cardiovascular disease. Do you eat healthy? Mediterranean diet is what they recommended when I did some research. And I'm like, nah, too much work, not doing it, not figuring it out. Gonna do what's right for me. And I also don't believe in diets anymore that this diet or that diet or intermittent fasting or anything. I don't think there's one size fits all for anyone. I think you have to be your own science experiment and actually figure out what's right for you. So I challenge you to do that today. I challenge you to check in with your stress level and what's going on in your life. I am in a pretty high stress period again, and I know it. And so I do things like hypnosis, meditation, quiet time, get out in the sun, go for a walk, breathe to counteract that, because I know if I listen to my body, it will tell me, okay, your little red wagon's getting too full, you better pay attention. And then I'll do something that has me relax and not be super stressed out. All right, let's talk about the P in the SOAP framework today. We're going to have 2 action items today. Whenever we do the SOAP framework, the SOAP framework or the super framework this year, we're going to have to double up on our action items. Why? Because I want to make sure I can give you as much value as I possibly can. And that means some days we're going to do 2 things instead of 1. So today we're going to look at the P in the SOAP framework, which stands for progress. And we want to just ask ourselves the question, how do I know if the action that I took to try to fill the gap between where I am and where I want to be actually had an effect and is moving me in the direction I want to go, toward what I want? Sometimes that's just a yes or no question. Other times it's, all right, that didn't really work exactly. What next action can I try to fill that gap? And that's what we're looking at today. That's the 4th step of the process. And what you do when you're done with it once, you recycle back through and you start over again. All right, where am I? What do I want? And if our results have changed, great, for the better or for the worse, then we want to really pay attention to it. So figure out today, how will you measure the area of physical health and well-being that you've decided you want to improve? How are you going to know? Maybe you said you want to lose 10 pounds. It's pretty easy to tell. You hop on the scale once a week, right? I could go into a whole diatribe about dieting history, but I'm not going to. So pick your thing, figure out a way to measure it, and then share in the comments below how you're going to measure it and how you'll know if you're making progress to fill that gap or not. Because it's really helpful to learn from one another when it comes to creatively thinking of how to measure things. Physical is pretty easy to measure. You can take your measurements, you can weigh yourself, you can count calories, you can to track exercise. There's so many ways to do it depending on what it is that you're improving. Other areas, not so much. We have to get a little more creative in those areas, which is why I like even more for us to share what's working for us and what we're doing. All right, any questions, any feedback, any comments, anything at all, go ahead, hit me up. Otherwise, go out and make it an amazing day, and I will, of course, be with you tomorrow.